Today. We're excited to have you here. So the purpose of this meeting is to kind of explain, some background on the ARP funding that the city will be receiving. So the city's plan for spending, and to hear community input on how you think we should spend the funds. So this particular meeting is a little bit more focused on community leaders and community organizations that are serving the community. All are welcome, of course. Community members will have other opportunities as well to be engaged and to give their thoughts and their opinion and their feedback on how they think the funds should be spent. But the goal of this is really to focus on those organizations and groups that are serving the community. We'll do a couple quick housekeeping notes. If we could get the PowerPoint slides up. Oh, and on the subject of housekeeping, as I hear myself echoing, if you could remember to mute yourself when you're not speaking, that would be great. We're also recording this meeting. The recording has already started. And for everyone who's here, if you could go ahead and put your name, organization, and email in the chat, that would be super helpful so we could see who's on the meeting. Also, you're welcome. We'll have moments where we're asking people to share, and at that point, you'll be able to. You can put notes in the chat at any time. You can also you'll be able to unmute yourselves and to speak during those sections. All right, so let's do quick staff introductions as well, so you know who from the city is here on the call. My name is Sarah. I am the Development Project Coordinator with the Community Development Department. And then we'll have other staff members if you could jump on and introduce yourselves as well.
Hi, I can go. I'm Josie Shardlow. I'm the Community Engagement Manager with the city, and thanks for joining us today. I'll pass it to Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Namau, and I'm the Community Development Intern, and I'll pass it to Kim.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Kim Berggren. I'm the Director of Community Development here for the city. And I don't believe we have any other staff, but let me just make sure before I get started here. I do see Councilmember Russell on here as well, so I would encourage Councilmember if you want to introduce yourself quickly. Oh, and Councilmember Parks I see as well. So if you two want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Councilmember Terry Parks, representing the East District of Brooklyn Park.
Councilmember Winfred Russell, I represent the West District on the City Council, and I've invited a good number of residents to be a part of this. So I hope many of them can join in to have this conversation. I know it's not going to be the be all and all as far as this is concerned, but thanks for putting this together. Appreciate it.
And Councilmember Lisa Jacobson here as well, representing the East District.
Thanks, Lisa. I just saw your name there. Any other council members or staff that I'm missing? Claudia, I think I see.
Hello, I'm Claudia Diggs. Oops.
I think that was Susan Pa. Go ahead, Susan.
Oh, yep. Councilmember Susan Pa, West District. Good to be here with all of you.
And then Claudia.
Hello, folks. I'm Claudia Diggs, the Neighborhood Relations Specialist for the city. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank
Kim,
you guys for bearing with me here.
I believe that's Antonio. You're very hard to hear, Antonio.
Okay.
Antonio, do you want to try again?
How's that? Is that better?
Oh, you're still quiet. I'll just say Antonio's with our youth team working with young people, including the Cities United at Work. Anybody else I missed from staff and council, just so the group knows who's listening from staff? Oh, I do see Woki just jumped on, our Assistant City Manager.
Yes, hello, thank you. I just posted in the chat also.
Okay, great. Well, it's a great way to make sure, I wanted to make sure the community members that are here know who's listening and will be able to relay what we hear today into the process for planning for ARP dollars. So thank you all for joining today. This is a really important meeting to us as staff and to the council to connect with a lot of our community leaders. It's great to see a lot of familiar names and faces. To hear from you all and make sure you're up to speed on where the city's at with the ARP dollars. And then also to get your information over the next hour, but also to encourage you to continue to provide your thoughts as we move through the next month of process to identify priorities for the community in terms of the use of the American Rescue Plan Act funds that the city's getting. So for background, for those of you who haven't been following as closely, the federal government, has put out a lot of different rescue plans and acts and dollars throughout the various governments and others ways. And through that, 1.9 trillion was allocated. And of those dollars, Brooklyn Park is getting a direct allocation from the federal government of 11.1 million. And we actually already have the first 50% of the funds, so the first 5.5 million. And then we would anticipate to get another 5.5 million a year from now. There are eligible uses that are defined by the federal government, so these dollars can't be used for everything. The main 5 eligible uses that are listed on the slide respond to efforts to continue to decrease the spread of the virus and control the pandemic. That's the first thing. The second thing is to address systemic public health and negative economic impacts. So it's really focused on health and economic impacts in terms of how they want to see these dollars used. We also can use the dollars to support economic stabilization for households and for businesses. So it's pretty open in terms of how we can support our community with these dollars for both housing and business uses. And then there are some abilities to use these dollars for investing in water and sewer and broadband infrastructure, but the regulations in that space is weird. We're still kind of navigating that. It's not open, but there are ways in which we might be able to use the dollars in those spaces. And then finally, one of the uses of these dollars is intended to replace revenue loss that the city has experienced. And Brooklyn Park's been lucky. We haven't had a ton of revenue loss. Some cities that are more reliant on sales tax, they've had a bigger impact of revenue loss. But because Brooklyn Park relies mostly on property tax and a limited reliance on fees, we've seen some loss in revenue, especially in some of our special enterprise funds that we will need to use these dollars to make up so that we can stabilize the activities of the city. So those are the eligible uses. This table is something that has been offered by the League of Minnesota Cities to kind of try to give a little bit finer grain on the types of things that we would anticipate using these dollars for, or we could use these dollars for. You can see that responding to public health emergency, there's a lot of things under that space, but the city is not a public health entity, so the county is really responsible for a lot of the public health services. We do some stuff around the edges in that space and partner with the county, of course, as well. Addressing the negative economic impacts, we do have a lot of activities that are happening in the space already with the Economic Development Authority of the city. So we would anticipate dollars going into these activities to do economic revitalization work. Serving the hardest hit, certainly we've talked a lot about how COVID has impacted some communities more than other communities. And so thinking about the use of these dollars to serve those that have been hit hardest by COVID. And then finally, this category of improving infrastructure, and it's a pretty, it seems broad, like drinking water, but it's a little bit more restrictive than that. So there's some nuance there. So a little bit more background. Some of the things that we can't use the dollars for is to offset a tax cut, to deposit it into any type of pension fund, or use it for debt service payments. So we can't use it for some of those city functions like that. We can't just put it in a fund to sit in for use later. We do need to spend the dollars using under the spending timeline. But unlike the last round of funding that the city got, the CARES funding that we got, we had like 3 months to spend those dollars. In this case, we have a lot more time to be intentional. We have until the end of December 2024 to spend these funds. And then there's this like additional kind of gap that if we have something committed and in motion, we might have another 2 years to spend those dollars as long as they're fully committed and the project's underway. So we don't expect a lot of that to happen, but it is an option for us. So I just this is a presentation that I had given to the city council a little bit ago, and we wanted to make sure that people were aware that these are not the only dollars that are going to be coming to Brooklyn Park. This is the dollars that are coming right to the city, but there are other dollars that are coming into Brooklyn Park through other programs and other allocations of money. The biggest one is the $25 billion that went out for rental assistance. The state has 300 and some $1 million that are available for rental assistance. And I know a lot of you are already aware of this and are helping to get the word out and getting our renters through that Rent Minnesota website and getting them programmed in so they can get that big chunk of dollars that are available to renters. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew about that. And then there's also small business funds that are coming through other channels, along with everything else listed in this list. So this isn't the only dollars coming to Brooklyn Park. And I know many of you are connected in with some of these other ways of getting dollars into the Brooklyn Park community. So thank you for that. In terms of learnings from our last round of doing emergency funding, we did use over half the dollars out in the community. And I think we were a little bit unique in that. From what I can understand, other cities, a lot of cities, kept the CARES funding for city uses, but we were able to get over half of it out into the community. And that was a big commitment the council wanted to see. They wanted to see the dollars used in the community for stabilization. So that happened. We did quite a bit of engagement for such a short timeline to have the community drive how those dollars were spent. We found that funding the community members and nonprofits and businesses, that while it was very administratively challenging to get that to happen, the partners did a great job using those dollars in meaningful ways. And so we want to continue that pattern as we advance the next round of work. And then the timeline for CARES, like I said, was really challenging. We do have more time with these ARP dollars to be more strategic and try to be more impactful with the dollars. And then, the unclear regulations are always a little challenging with these funds. So as we're soliciting information from you all about what you want to see the dollars, staff's on the back end kind of managing whether or not we can use the dollars for those purposes. So not all the ideas that we hear are going to be able to be funded with these dollars, but we'll be doing that work after the fact here. And the audit of, I put this little comment, we haven't been audited for the CARES dollars yet. So, we hope that we followed regulations last time around, and we hope that we can do that again while still being creative about the use of the dollars. This is just a summary for those that haven't had a chance to see how we spent the CARES dollars. 91 businesses got grants, 30 different nonprofits and schools got grants, over almost 200 households got direct payments to help with their housing and critical expenses. And then another 332 households got rent assistance through our homeless prevention program, where we wrote off renters' rent with the landlords. And then in total, almost 2.6 million were distributed over 3 months into the community of those CARES dollars. So as we look at the ARP dollars, the first thing, this is something we just talked to the city council about, and it was agreed that the first step will be to stabilize the city government, which is what we also did with the CARES dollars, replace some of the revenue loss, which we don't have those numbers yet, and we're working to determine what that number is. But like I said, it's not as bad as some of the other cities have had it. And then also to stabilize some of our current programs that are in place, some of our things that rely on revenue where they lost revenue. One example would be the new dome that the city put up. It was closed because of COVID, and so there's some revenue loss there that we'll be looking at whether or not to use these dollars to stabilize the dome. Those decisions have not been made, but that's the first thing that the council is going to be looking at. And then we're going to be looking at what strategic investments can we make to stabilize the community and also set the community up for economic prosperity going forward. And so thinking about our strategic city investments and also strategic partnerships. So that's why we wanted to start early by making sure you're all engaged and thinking about partnership opportunities. So the stakeholder engagement process, in July here, we're meeting with folks like yourselves and trying to get the word out and get feedback. We have received a couple kind of written, this is what we think the dollars should be used for statements, and so that's been really helpful. And we welcome any of those types of things from you all. On August 2nd, the council will be meeting with the commissions. This is an annual standing meeting, and one of their topics will be to talk about some of our preliminary thinking on how these dollars might be used. And so we'll be reporting out on what we're hearing from the community at that meeting. And then we do plan to do a broader kind of just standardized survey so that we can get more input from residents and community leaders like yourselves. And then we'll be bringing forward a recommended plan of action for the council in October or September, and hoping that we can have the council do some kind of high level allocation of dollars into different categories so we can get going on spending and getting those dollars out into the community. I did want to mention, and there's some more technical work to be done to flesh out what this means, but there are some additional flexibilities that are offered in what are called qualified census tracts. And this is the map of Brooklyn Park. The top of the city's cut off here, but just this is 85th Avenue. And what you can see is that our qualified census tracts in purple are the neighborhoods where potentially we could use the dollars in more flexible ways. One of those ways would be like investing in housing projects. But we have some little additional work to do on kind of the nuance around that. But I just wanted to share that as something that is true about these dollars, that you can do more in certain neighborhoods with these dollars than you can in other neighborhoods. And then I had mentioned that we've gotten a couple proposals from groups. Minnesota Council of Nonprofits, they recommended that we provide funding to nonprofits that are impacted by COVID, and also to focus on organizations that serve BIPOC. We've also gotten a proposal from Brooklyn Bridge Alliance for Youth, which is a joint powers that focuses on youth in our community, along with Brooklyn Center. And they've listed that they recommend investing in youth safety and well-being, pathways to college and career, and also efforts to transform systems for better outcomes for our young people. And then the other themes we've heard so far include focusing on violence prevention, supporting seniors, supporting youth and families, health equity, including continuing the Health on the Go work that we've been doing in partnership with many of you on this call. And then also workforce development, small business supports, and housing stability. So I just wanted to share some of the things we've already heard and themes that are emerging from these conversations. So that all of that is kind of the presentation for you. We do want to spend the majority of this meeting in discussion. But before I do that, are there any kind of clarifying questions that folks have about the dollars or about the process that we're using right now? We always welcome questions later too, if you have questions as it goes, or want specific information about the ARP program.
Hello.
Oh, was there a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Kojo. I'm the director of a nonprofit called Better We in Brooklyn Park. So we've worked through the pandemic with hundreds of businesses in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. And the federal plans for SBA that they put on with the EIDL and the PPP program, we discovered that our community businesses have been laid off because a lot of businesses did not get those funds. And we are trying to reach out to SBA and figure out what's the problem, and we can have up till now any insights upon that. So we think this is a good time. The city think about working and giving a kind of grant to those businesses impacted in the community, because right now we, for example, we still have more than 100 files on our table in the office, and the businesses that are operating for years are in good standing with their taxes, but the SBA can't give them all the targeted grants or the supplemental grants. We don't know. They just dismiss their cases. There's no communication. We are trying to reach out to them. They will tell you that, okay, just wait, you receive a notice. There's no notice coming. And we don't really know what to do. So we think this is a proposal I'm making. If the city can put on a certain grant, because there are some of those businesses that are very important, but that are above to close the doors because they can't make it if there is no money anymore. So that's the proposal I got.
Great, thank you for that. That's a really good segue into our next question, was just really asking you for what investments you think are needed. So I'm hearing funding for the small businesses that are not getting funding through SBA or other programs that are available.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here and say a couple of things. So we have a number of questions to kind of guide. That is a really good segue. We have a couple of questions here to kind of guide the conversation. So this first part of the conversation will kind of focus on what are the community needs that you're seeing and how should the city invest the money generally? And then we'll get into a further question later about specifically like what are some ways that you think the city could partner with your specific organization in order to distribute the funds. So for this first question, and I'll also note here, we have quite a few, it looks like we've got about 38 people on the call. So I do want to try to go through and hear from everyone on this first question, but because there are so many people, if you could try to be succinct in your first comment, but I am going to go down the list and just hear what everyone has to say. You're welcome to pass if you'd like, but I'll go down and call out people's names. So first we have.
Sarah, can I say one thing before that?
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
We would welcome you to put your answer in the chat or verbalize it, because we can capture everything coming out of the chat. So if it's easier for you or you prefer, you could just put your message in the chat.
Yeah, and along that lines, we'll also have a survey that's gone out electronically, but that can be used as follow-up, or if you would like to kind of get your thoughts in order, you can complete that after the session and you can pass when I call your name as well. So I'll go ahead and go down the list. First, we have a couple call-in numbers. I've got a 5914 number. (5914) if you want to unmute yourself. All right, we'll go to the next one, which is a.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes,
I'm sorry. I was 5914, and I apologize. I wasn't near my phone, but nonetheless, a question about the allocation of the funds.
Yeah, the
I'm just
question is,
curious.
how should the city invest the money? Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see the screen.
And I cannot because I'm just on the phone. But
yes, yep.
As far as the investing, is it a possibility? So our schools is within a district, but we're in a more marginalized section of the city. And would it be possible for the allocations of funds to be done to a specific school versus having to go through the district, where the district is taking away funds, cutting positions, versus, just a way to supplement those dollars that are being taken away from our school? Is that a possibility that the city could work directly with the school versus through the district for us to receive some of those funds?
Yeah, so we're taking notes and we're recording this meeting. So we'll take all of these thoughts and suggestions, and then we'll condense them and look through like what are some of the recommendations that people are giving us about how we think the city should invest the funds. So I see Kim's noted that down. Anything else you want to add, or should I go on to the next?
No, that is it. You can go on to the next person. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Next, I've got 4316 is the phone number. We have 4316, one more minute if you want to unmute yourself and speak. All right, I'll go to the next person, which is Dr. Asia King.
All right, hello, thank you so much. So When we're talking about investing the monies within the city, I am part of the 21 Days of Peace initiative, which has been physical presence in one of the hot spots, one of the many hot spots that Brooklyn Park has. And when we talk about crime, because I know that crime was mentioned, but I'm wondering, is crime tied into the public health crisis that is causing within our city? And so when we're talking about allocating funds for, these type of initiatives, especially around public health, I would like to see the money spent towards helping these volunteers and community leaders and professionals who are already doing work for free, to be more supported in their work on outreach, the prevention and the intervention side. So, because when we look at the numbers and look at the statistics of public health, crime is a public health crisis, which I hope hope that we can all agree Brooklyn Park is a public health crisis right now, as we all saw on the city council meeting with Wilder Foundation results. So I would like to see the monies put towards really supporting and initiating the 21 Days of Peace initiative, and how we can continue to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Next
and I
up,
will add, I didn't mention it in the presentation, but the President Biden actually added into the legislation the ability to spend money on such uses. So that is eligible. I didn't mention it specifically, but those violent crime reduction, gun violent prevention reduction in particular is eligible. So thanks for those comments.
So that is under this?
It's eligible in terms of a use. Doing
Okay.
like what you're suggesting is an eligible use. I didn't specifically call attention to that in my presentation, so I just wanted to say that. And that President Biden actually added language to the federal legislation to make it eligible. So
Okay.
there's recognition nationally that these dollars might want to go towards those uses.
All right. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. So next we've got Allison.
I think I'd like to spend some time gathering my thoughts and get back with you.
Sounds good. Next I've got Beth Bailey.
Good morning, all, and thanks for meeting with the community to get the input on this. Community mediation restorative services doesn't really work in a silo area. We end up crossing a number of different initiatives, but one of the core values of our organization is that people who are most impacted by decisions get to be part of the decision-making process. And so I appreciate Dr. Asia King's comments and work there, and appreciate the comments about the schools and impacted neighborhoods. One of the areas where we're really focused right now, and this started prior to the pandemic, is imagining different ways of achieving more stable housing in the community, and recognizing that Brooklyn Park stands out in some ways in the level of the use of the court-ordered eviction process to address non-payment of rent issues. So I would love to see investment in a community-wide effort to reduce the use of eviction as a way of addressing non-payment of rent, and specifically an investment in the culturally specific leadership that has come together under the umbrella group that we call Project Hope. And HOPE is an acronym for Housing Outreach Partners Engaging. And I know we have some folks who are partners to Project Hope that are part of this call, so I'll defer to their comments on that. And an effort that would involve the school district in, because one of the things that we have seen is when we have highly mobile neighborhoods, that really undermines what the schools are trying to accomplish. So they're an important stakeholder in that work as well.
right, thank you. I'm gonna keep going on down the list here. So next we've got Nicole.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nicole Lee, and I am part of the 21 Days of Peace volunteers. So I did just want to reiterate what Dr. King was stating, and also see if we can maybe put in a newer program where we can help partner with the police so they can use their time for other things, and maybe dealing with those smaller issues. Maybe we can help take some stuff off their plate. I also was curious on if we could establish something similar to what the smaller children have, like Rec on the Go, but something more for the older teenagers or young adults that may be going more for trades, job skills, or IT. I also wanted to ask, we say that the homeowners take a lot of the tax weight, and we have some of that money that the businesses don't take. What about maybe refunding some of the homeowners some of their taxes, or give them a tax break as well? Thank you.
Thank you. And next I've got Claire Brumbeck.
So, hi, I'm Clea Kennedy. I'm speaking for Claire. I wrote it actually in the chat, but we were kind of talking about how SEEP continues to be an organization that is, inundated with requests for food support in the community, but without proper equipment and sustainable supports right now, we're not able to do that in a sustainable way. And so we would be requesting funds for a mobile food truck. And that would be complementing the programs like Rec on the Go, Health on the Go, with a food component, a resource component, that we could really be in community with folks who struggle to get to our door because of transportation issues and lack of access. And so that's what SEEP would be proposing.
All right, thank you. Next I've got Dave Kaiser.
Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity. Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. We certainly have been trying to do our best to focus our news coverage on stories and coverage that would help get information out of some of the things that are being funded, that are being talked about. Our thought would be to see if there would be some part of the funds that would be available to help us provide more video production services to organizations that are being brought up in this meeting to help them get the message out. Kim mentioned it earlier that a key is to get the word out. And we think if all of these great things come together and are available for the community, we would like to be a partner in that to get the word out, and some help and some funding to do that would be very beneficial.
Thank you. Next is Dawn from CAPI.
Hi, everybody. I'm in the chat too, but I'd love to just kind of go over some of the items. I noted that MCN had supported the idea of general operating dollars. I just want to say I think that's great. So utilizing just a little bit of flexibility with dollars allows providers to be creative within the scope of the project, especially as these are going to be a couple years long. I think for CAPI, we provide holistic services for the community. So we're kind of falling in a lot of these areas. Some of the areas that I think we can really enhance some services with dollars would be around public benefits navigation, public health navigation, specifically related to COVID. Mental health services is an area we'd like to really grow in. It's not something that we've been providing, but it's something that we've really been exploring, and we really see a need there. Technology. For the community, laptops, broadband, wireless internet, and also training. It can take quite a bit of support to train community members how to utilize technology, and we've really seen that as a barrier to economic stability. Economic stability, including general job placement services, helping people retool in the aftermath of the pandemic. Also flexible training dollars to help connect the community to trainings as they are potentially going into new careers. Housing stability services, as Beth mentioned, we are a partner as well, and really appreciate everything that Beth and her great team has done And so, you know, anything around the housing stability space, I really agree with Beth when she talked about the eviction and needing some support there. We're really concerned about that issue. Also just general housing stability services such as case management services and helping to connect people to the resources that they need to prevent eviction, find stable housing, find affordable housing, and so on. And then the last piece would just be overarching outreach. I agree. I heard the gentleman talk about the video production. I think just overarching outreach dollars are really needed as we kind of push out all these different services. And so that's radio, that's social media, that's video, flyers, and also the staff time that it takes to do that. So thanks so much for having us today.
All right, thank you. We'll keep going. I've got EPMN manager on the list.
Yes, hi. So I'm the property manager for Eden Park Apartments. We are more involved with, or we're trying to be more involved with our community, participating in all these meetings. Our biggest concern was, like Dr. King said, the crime activity, kind of supporting the staff and the volunteers to make different projects and events for the community, as well as our youth, providing more programs like Rec on the Go that was mentioned. I feel like a lot of the apartment complex do have to participate in this to provide the needs that the residents might need to create success in their property. As part of the eviction goes, our goal as Monarch Investments that owns Eden Park is not to evict, is more to help the residents through the process of applying for Project Zero, rent help, SEEP, whatever is necessary. What we do find is that a lot of these residents do not understand the technology that's been used, that has been or needs to be used, as far as computers, scanning, PDFs, what exactly documents that they need to upload. So even if there is some sort of assistance to help them through the process, like in person, like an event, that would definitely help them. But that's kind of our feedback on why we're trying to be more involved on our community.
Thank you. Next, I've got Lindsay Fort.
Hi, I'm from North Hennepin Community College. Thanks for inviting us to participate today. A lot of the things that we see, that we're seeing and that we're hearing from our students and community members has been mentioned, but definitely Wi-Fi has been a huge barrier, both in terms of cost and access. So yeah, I think that on top of general technology support, we're doing a lot of that with our students, and we've been able to provide through a lot of community organizations and through our own COVID funding actual like computers, but the Wi-Fi is definitely a challenge. And I just also want to echo Cappy and some of the others. The housing concerns is one of the biggest barriers that we're seeing for students, and particularly as things are changing, the eviction, the rent, and the stability around it has been a big challenge this year, as we've seen fluctuating unemployment for a lot of our students. The other two that I do think that I want to mention that I haven't heard yet is transportation. We've had a lot of students say that they've been uncomfortable taking the bus or other public transportation. So if there was some way that we could be creative about other potential transportation options, or whether it's like vouchers for Ubers or things like that, I don't know. But just trying to address that, where people access to transportation and to safe transportation has been a challenge. And then supplementing childcare costs, I think, would also be something that would be really helpful as people are getting back to work a little bit more, and just schedules and everything are changing a lot, and the ability for students to get to work or to get to class or anything like that has been really impacted by lack of affordable childcare, and particularly those that are open are limited in space and availability. And then the last one just is a repeat too of just mental health support. The amount of pressure that people have been on and stress this last year has been really significant that we've seen, and we just want to continue to partner with the organizations in the community to provide services. So yeah, I think that sums it up.
All right, thank you. We've got Joyce McNutt is next.
Yeah, hi. I just really would like to echo like so many wonderful things that people have said. I agree so much with Dr. King and with Beth. Also talking about listening to Steve talking about like the possibility of like the food on the go. But one of the things that is really pressing on me is just kind of a way to get some funding into training, right? Like our young people, our teenagers and our young adults. Training, rather that is getting them prepared. I think Brooklyn Park, we have just a huge local union, like right here in our city. And I'm just educating like our young people about, you know, possibly going into the trades and educating them about that as being like opportunity. Just educating us, right? We're listening to all of these great ideas and we have all of these pockets of wonderful things that are happening in our city. You know, the 21 days of peace, that should be like ongoing, right? Like we should have 365 days of peace, right? So the things that we are doing, like have training where we can come together, rather it's like a circle or just a space where you have like all of these different organizations that can come together and kind of connect with one another to find out, you know, what's going right, how can we collaborate with each other, how can we train, bring in our police department to find out like what is it that the community can do to assist them. So just kind of training to make us aware of what's going on like in the city, what, you know, opportunities we do have, what resources we do have. So just maybe a format or a place where we can kind of come together, have conversations, not when things are at, you know, place, but when we are, you know, kind of thinking ahead of time, like what can we do, more of like prevention other than, you know, always like behind the 8 ball. So thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll keep going here. We've got Jackson George.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. What I would like to see is more money going into small and micro businesses. Some of these businesses need signage. Um, some of them, most of the businesses that were doing well before the COVID, they back up because of their leases, and some of them need to catch up. I think those are good businesses that we want to keep in the city, but some of this funding should be able to help them catch up with their leases. I also like to see organizations that are supporting businesses are empowered. And so some of these dollars, if it can get to administrative costs, to be able to help with operations, to help these small organizations such as LIBA help businesses. So many of times we have funding for operations, but we don't have enough funding to assist and empower these organizations so that they grow. So I like to see business organizations growing in the city, and sometimes we need some funding to help with administrative costs. I like to see that. And I also like to see a loan program. We've started a loan program with the City of Brooklyn Center. We're working on that. We'd like to see a micro loan program for small and micro businesses. We also want to see some of these dollars going into innovation program for people who want to start businesses within the city. So like an incubator program. So these are some of the things that we'd like to see from some of the dollars going into. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just make a note, we're about halfway through and we've got about a little over halfway through and we've got about 15 minutes left. So I think it's important to hear from everyone. So I'm going to continue to go all the way through the list. But just to note that you can fill out the online form as well. We're taking notes as you can see, and then any comments you can include in the online form, we'll record those as well. So I'll continue down the list here. I've got Jude. Jude, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, sorry, this is Jude. Just briefly, more support for micro business, strong engagement for the community, especially for the city to get to know the community and also support some of the local initiatives within the community in Brooklyn Park. And then the other part, I think Jackson talked about it, the loan and also loan to small business. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. Next, I've got Cassie.
Hi, I'm here just to listen in. I work for Hennepin County Public Health. So it's really great to see that this is coming together and interesting for me to be able to see where funding is needed and assistance in general. I do quite a bit of work in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center in various ways. I work under the statewide Health Improvement Partnership, the SHIP grant. So it's helpful for me to hear from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I've got Liam.
Yes, I think the funds should be used and go toward, I believe Brooklyn Park has already approved a small business center project, an incubator project. I would like to see parts of the funds used to further invest in that project, including tools and equipment that can go inside this new business center, things like a commercial kitchen so that those small businesses that cook at home, things of that nature, can utilize this facility to cook and deliver, to 3D printers, to sewing machines, different things of that nature that can help small businesses improve as they move forward. Like a previous caller, I would love to see parts of the funds used to bridge the alliance between the school and the trade. So invest in the youth early on to get them into some of the great paying jobs, whether it's electrical or plumbing, mechanical, any kind of construction job. And then third, invest in infrastructure, improving the water in Brooklyn Park and broadband. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Next, I've got Mamadi.
Yeah, hello.
Hey, Mamadi, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. For me, I think some of the things I would like to see is about capacity building for for businesses, for small businesses to build their capacities, even as much as somebody may want to start a business. Some of them don't even know where to start from. They cost them a lot of money. But if we can build the capacity of these businesses, I think that would be another improvement. And also I'm also in support of the micro loan to small businesses, or who were not able to get the SBA loans, and even some of them got the loans, but it was not even sufficient for them to even do anything more meaningful, or because of the size. Or I don't know if my imam is on, but also religious institutions, because these are places that nurture the young people. They go to church, they go to the mosques, or if we invest in religious institutions or for some of the programming that they have, I think we can also help to lower or lessen some of the ills that we see in young people in the street and stuff like that. So I think that's what I would really want to see.
All right, thank you. Next, I've got Mike Johnson.
Thank you, and thank you, City of Brooklyn Park, for giving us this opportunity. I too am with CCX Media. I'm the executive director. In addition to what Dave mentioned, I'll just make this really quick. In terms of partnerships, we definitely would like to partner with any group that is interested working with us on programs. But I just want to throw out another idea that we've been talking about here and that has been successful in some other community media centers, and that's like a citizen journalism training program to get maybe there was some talk just a few moments ago about training our youth. We feel we have the technical ability and the journalistic ability to train our future journalists and to get people, all people of color, represented in communications and on our news or in a specific news program that can be used to disseminate information in the city of Brooklyn Park. So, and also some funding to help pay maybe stipends for various people who can host programs on various topics that are of concern to people. So trying to get more faces, more people represented in community media. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Marugi next.
Excuse me. Thank you. And I will fill out the form. You can go ahead with the next person. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I've got Nalima.
Thanks. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the stuff that has already been said. I mean, definitely we do a lot of work around housing, small businesses, we're working, for housing. We have the Northwest Suburban Housing Committee, and we're working a lot with tenants and Rent Help Minnesota, and ditto for all the small business support. We really need that. I think what I would like to mention is, I think what I'm most concerned about is about, coming up with both short-term strategies and long-term strategies, right? So if we take a step back, I mean, the COVID pandemic definitely exacerbated the issues that have been challenging for our community, but what it did is really expose these issues have been with us, underlying issues for a long time. And we're not going to program ourselves out of these issues. I think this is a great opportunity for the city to take a step back and even measure what has been the impact of what is the real impact of COVID on us so that we are making the right investments. But also, I think it's a great opportunity to really invest on other long-term great strategic ideas that in the past, especially for a lot of community groups and those of us who have worked with the city for a long time, where it has been like, we don't have money to do this, we don't have money to do this, right? Or else we're going to be caught up in this perpetual cycle of operating out of crisis. I think it's also a great opportunity for the city to take a step back and really start addressing these root causes of why our community and why our city is disproportionately impacted, by the pandemic, and how we move forward in a more strategic and invest in more long-term sustainable goals, as well as the short-term issues that that are impacting us. Or else, because when I think back during the foreclosure crisis, we were in the same situation, disproportionately impacted, etc. And we're going to continue staying in this perpetual cycle of crisis. Every time something happens, we can predict we're going to be disproportionately impacted. So let's take a step back and think about investing in solving the root causes and not just the symptoms that are being exhibited right now.
All right, thanks, Nalima. Sam.
Thank you. My name is Samuel Mwangi. I'm the Executive Director of the Global Fatherhood Foundations. We are based in Brooklyn Park. Yes, one of the core values of our Global Fatherhood Foundation would like to see investments in counseling and mental health for men. There are men who are struggling because of work, also because of COVID. Another investment, we'd like to see domestic violence in our homes. We'd like to have outreach, more education, especially men who are impacted in these homes, and some of them that have been kicked out of these homes. Seriously, it is tough, and a man tells you he's going through domestic violence, and having a discussion, let him and let him know that they can be able to speak up to me so that we can be able to go for help. Another thing that we'll be doing in the community right now, we need more investment is the development of men's training and nurturing classes. We have young men who are jumping into fatherhood. They have kids, not necessarily they're married, but they are really struggling how to become a father. Though we do have the classes, but for these investments, there will be an opportunity to develop maybe books or maybe manuals, simple manuals, or maybe an app they can be able to read whenever they have time. Another thing also we have been looking for right now with the City of Brooklyn Center and City of Brooklyn Park is a partnership for community men and kids engagement, like having a father-daughter son dance, an opportunity for the kids and fathers just to have a good time together. We lack that because men are working a lot, and also these kids they missed last year and the other year because of COVID. So having a partnership, bringing all these kids and daughters for a dance, that will be a very good engagement. And lastly, I want to speak about stipend for volunteers. Yes, we do have volunteers, but we don't pay them. I think an opportunity for these volunteers who put so many hours, there will be an opportunity for them to show their hard work, appreciate their effort, and also give them morale so that we can be able to have good programs in the community. And investments will be nice for for non-profits. For instance, the development of technology and website. We want to develop a website. We want to include more programs, but also that's a disparities. We had hit. So with an investment and having a good mentor, developing a website, which is more of a user friendly, that will be a plus in the investment. Thank you so much. I do appreciate for this opportunity.
All right, thank you. I've got about 3 people left. I see we're at time, so I am going to continue to call on these 3 people. But for anyone who has to leave, I want to mention to please fill out the form. So there's an opportunity there are more questions on the form, including to identify like ways the city could partner with your organization to implement programs, or any other suggestions for partnering. Also, there's some questions about ranking priorities and so on. And we'll do these last couple of people, and then Josie or Kim will close with some next steps. So in the last few minutes here, I've got Sean Morrison, and then Tim and Victoria, and that'll be it.
Hi, I'm Sean Morrison with Good in the Hood, and thanks for all you're doing with this. I really appreciate it. Good in the Hood does a number of programs and services, but just to be succinct, we primarily work with hunger relief, providing pop-up programs. We had 27 pop-up programs throughout the Twin Cities, including one at Hennepin Technical College, one at Creekside Gables in Brooklyn Park. And these just help, obviously, with food insecurity. We then also bring alongside that shoes and footwear, and then medical foot care we are able to offer as well. So we'd be interested in helping to subsidize those type of things, as well as working with schools to provide youth training and job readiness through internships and service learning programs. So we just love to partner, and certainly want to be a part of what's happening in Brooklyn Park. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And Tim? Tim, if you want to pop on, if there's anything you'd like to add. All right, so last we'll have Victoria. Victoria, if you have anything you want to add.
Yes, I would like to ensure that Brooklyn Park really thinks about early literacy, because I think with the early literacy, most of the problems that we're experiencing right now will be truncated and at least stopped before they even start. So if we're able to go ahead and start at the beginning, we'll be able to then minimize what we're trying to fix at this time. But I'll also go ahead and fill out the form and send that in. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? And just a reminder, you can also fill out the form with some more questions and feedback. Any last comments before we do next steps?
Great. I'll just jump in so we can wrap up quickly here. And I really, really appreciate all the comments. It was great to hear from a lot of people that have been important leaders in the community. So thank you for taking the time to join us today and share your thoughts verbally, and then also for following up with the more detailed survey so we can have a better and more specific information from each of your groups or from yourself. We welcome both opportunities, representation of the existing nonprofits, but also individual ideas. So we will be theming out these stakeholder discussions and presenting some information to the council and commissions at the August 2nd meeting to get input through that process as well. And then we'll be sending out this broader survey to the community. So it would be a second opportunity for you to provide information. It'll be more targeted at, any resident or business leader or worker in Brooklyn Park that has ideas about how the city should be directing the resources. And then staff will be putting together a recommendation for the council based on all of that feedback that we're getting, and from some of the discussions that council has had as well about things that are important to them. So thanks so much again for participating. And in addition to filling out the survey, you're welcome to reach out to any of the staff and provide, have some brainstorming conversations or whatnot. Josie, Sarah, myself, Tiffany, and of course, anybody else at the city that you're already working with. We welcome those conversations as well. Any final thoughts or anything I missed from other staff or council?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Can we have the copy later?
Oh, I missed what that was.
Yes, if you want to
Can we
receive
of the meeting?
Yeah, if you want to receive follow-up, please just make sure I have your email address. So just put it in the chat and I'll make sure you get the follow-up that'll have all the links and the recording and the PowerPoint and everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Josie, please give me a call when you can.
Okay, excellent. Everyone have a nice day. We appreciate the time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.